Glad to have you with us across the U.S. and Canada on over 260 affiliates, or if you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast version of the show, we appreciate that as well. Kurt Helin joins us every Wednesday on the show for the NBA Weekly. Get some thoughts with him on everything transpiring around the association. Big news from college basketball. North Carolina making a change at head coach. What does it mean for that school and who may take over that job? Some news from the NFL that we'll get to now, but also some other news that we'll get to coming up a little later on in the show. Tiger Woods makes his return. Baseball over-under predictions. Sam Yarnell will have a few of those for you coming up in a few minutes as well. But we start things out as we always do on this Wednesday edition of the show. It's time for the big story. And the big story today comes from the world of the NFL. And I remember back in December when Puka Nacua was seen on a video, a social media influencer, Aiden Ross, who is a contemptible human being. And he was doing this dance that was thought to be sort of an anti-Semitic touchdown dance that Aiden Ross wanted him to do. Talking about all these different things, talking about officiating, how officials are, fixing, or not fixing, but trying to just get themselves on camera, which is why they call penalties, all of this stuff that he was talking about, and really casting a negative light on himself. I remember doing a sports rap short talking about the fact that this isn't just some immature kid. This is a kid with some issues. This is a kid that obviously somebody has to step in. There needs to be an intervention when it comes to the behavior of Puka Nacua. And I remember so many people going nuts when I posted this sports rap short saying, no, the Aiden Ross thing, he didn't know. And Aiden Ross is Jewish, so he can't possibly be anti-Semitic or anything like that. No. And then you see the newest story about Puka Nacua that has emerged here in the last 24 hours. TMZ had it first. So you always give a little bit of you always take a step back when it's TMZ because a lot of the time they get it right. But there are also instances where you got to be careful because it's TMZ. But this story that has emerged about him and a woman wanting a restraining order against him, which, by the way, it deserves to be mentioned. Usually restraining orders, you can make a pretty quick case and get a restraining order, at least temporarily. This woman couldn't even get this restraining order filed against Puka Nacua. So take that as part of the entire conversation on this Puka Nacua story that we're about to talk about. There's going to be a hearing about whether or not she can get this restraining order. Normally, if something's bad enough, a judge will just say, boom, temporary restraining order. Just out of an abundance of caution. This woman didn't even get that restraining order. That put aside, the allegations in this filing for the temporary restraining order of Puka Nacua making anti-Semitic remarks, of Puka Nacua biting this woman, and actually her having a picture of the bite mark that he left. And an attorney for Nacua, by the way, not denying that his client bit this woman, but calling it horseplay. I remember a time where Marv Albert was basically off the air and was castigated. You'd have to go back and look at this, kids, because it happened a long time ago. Where Marv Albert was, taken out to the woodshed because of kinky things he liked to do in bed, allegedly, crazy stuff like that. Puka Nacua literally was biting this woman. And his attorney's like, it's horseplay. Guys being guys, boys being boys, Because who doesn't leave their entire teeth imprint in some woman's part of her body? So they're not even denying that part of it. They are denying the anti-Semitic part of it. And they're saying this whole thing is a shakedown. The woman's trying to get some money out of Puka Nacua. And look, all of this stuff will eventually shake itself out. But the Rams have a massive problem right now. He is a liability. On the field, it goes without saying he is one of the most talented players in the game at his position. But now you've had 2 instances, one verified where he was literally doing this dance that people would say is anti-Semitic. 2, this now less verified instance of this woman, we have to take her at her word, is saying he made comments about Jewish people. Then you throw in the biting. And then you throw in this laundry list of things that have happened with Puka Nacua over the last, year. Really, just 365 days. We can go back and sit here and look at it. Got wasted after the Super Bowl, made fun of Sam Darnold. Lied about going on a skydiving date with Sydney Sweeney. His brother, granted this is not Puka, arrested, stole an NBA player's wheels. Called Myles Garrett the NFL's equivalent of Giannis Antetokounmpo. Criticizing the refs. Says the Chiefs missed the playoffs because of the Taylor Swift. You just add it all up here. And you're kind of figuring out this isn't a glitch. It's the program. This isn't a glitch in the system when you're talking about Puka Nacua. This is who Puka Nacua is. And you can put up all the apologies you want about, that some PR person wrote up after the Aiden Ross incident. You can put all that stuff up that you want. We know who you are at this point. And the Rams have to make a decision. And they got to make it now. Because either you're making your bed and you're laying in it with Puka Nacua because he's just so talented you cannot bear to part ways with somebody and be damned who he offends. Or if you're the Rams, you're at this crossroads with this kid. And you've got to make a decision about whether or not you want this to be a part of your future. Right there. With Aiden Ross. And doing this stupid sort of boneheaded stuff. If this is more valuable than that. That's the big story. We're coming back, talking baseball. Overs and unders next. Welcome back to the show. Good to have you with us. Kurt Helin coming up in 10 minutes to talk some NBA. Although he's probably tired of me because he has to talk to me on text message every night. When I'm watching NBA games, I'm texting with him. When I'm watching college games, I'm texting with Bill Bender. I am unbearable. I am becoming that guy. The guy I talk to the least is the guy I do the show with every day. It's because he doesn't respond to my texts. I almost said texts.
Again, not true. I've been so much better recently.
You
started calling me out on the show, and then I was like, all right, well, now I really got to do something. So
we talked about Puka Nacua in the big story, but today is a day to celebrate. We're not going to let Puka Nacua ruin the day. Today is a day to celebrate. Happy opening day, everybody. Major League Baseball season has arrived. You're going to say it's not really opening day because it's only one game. It is. It's the first regular season game being played.
I'm not here to say that it's not opening day, but it's opening day in the same way that the Wednesday night Brazil game was opening day for the NFL. Like, yeah, we're all going to watch it. It's going to be fun. Probably won't be a good game because it's this early on in the season. Let's be honest. But at the end of the day, what we're all looking forward to, Jason, is those of you who sit at your desk jobs all day long can tune away for 2.5 hours in the middle of the day and watch your favorite baseball team. This is a discourse that I've actually been so keen on having with you. I think that Major League Baseball needs to go back to, and you have to go back a long way to remember a day like this, but they need to go back to what they did for opening day 20 years ago. Gosh, darn near 20 years ago at this point. Everybody, all 30 teams play on the same day at the same time. They all have 1 o'clock starts, or I guess 4 o'clock starts on the East Coast, 1 o'clock on the West Coast. We need to go back to that. Yeah. It's like one of the few like sanctities that we had as baseball fans, Jason.
Yeah.
Why did we stop?
I don't know. I don't know. I opening day should be a national holiday to me. It's one of my favorite days of the year. I live for baseball. It's the sport that is still nearest and dearest to my heart. I know you can call me boomer and old timer. Don't worry, there's somebody that lives in our complex that apparently is calling me that right now. So let's talk here. Opening day. I literally am feuding with somebody in my complex right now, because he basically said I'm old and should go play bingo at the local casino.
So now you're airing this grievance on the air, on the show that airs in Las Vegas, that very well could be on in this person's apartment now. These are smart life choices you're making in segment 2.
There is some young dentist that lives in our complex, and I made a noise complaint. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. So let's talk overs and unders, win totals in the final few minutes we have.
Can I just say I've never been more happy than I am right now to live all the way across the country from you.
Let's talk regular season win totals. I challenged you last night. I said I want 5 overs, unders that you love the most this year. So Sam Yarnell, rather than talking about the dentist that lives in my complex that is just...
You're not making it any better.
No, I'm not. But I want you to tell the audience 5 overs and unders that you like for this season. Go ahead.
I will sprint through them, Jason Page, and a lot of them are unders, and I know people don't like betting unders, but when you're talking about season-long bets, they're generally the smart ones to take when you can.
It's like going to the wedding and rooting for divorce.
I know, it's upsetting. But honestly, in a lockout-prone year, in a year where we're all kissing baseball goodbye, I'm happy to bet unders. I'm happy to root against all of these teams. We'll start with the Cincinnati Reds. Listen, the Cincinnati Reds I've talked very strongly about on this very show. I think that they're a team that are being a little bit overshared in the market. It seems like they've become a little bit too public, like David and Jason and I were talking about yesterday on the show when we were talking about the Las Vegas, Oakland, Sacramento Athletics. They're just a team to me that have become a little too public, and for that reason, I'm going to go under on the Reds win total of 80.5. I think they're close to a 500 team. I don't think they're all the way there yet. I think they're going to lose a decent amount of games. Reds under 80.5. Cardinals. I think the Cardinals could be the worst team in Major League Baseball this year. They are a team that are in the midst of rebuilding, and that's fine. Every team goes through phases like this. It's just come the Cardinals' time. Arenado's gone. You look at the pitching staff, and it's kind of a disaster. Give me the Cardinals under a low number, 69.5 wins. To the NL East, I'm going to go with the Phillies under 89.5 wins. This team does not feel suited to win 90 games this year. I know they just gave Chris Sanchez a ton of new money. There's a problem with that when you give pitchers new money. They tend to take a year off from pitching at their all-star caliber selves. We're relying a lot on Zach Wheeler to come back from thoracic outlet syndrome. Look at pitchers' histories with that. It ain't great. Bryce Harper's a year older. He had the whole falling out with Dombrowski. The contract buyout of Nick Castellanos was a disaster in how all of that ended. Give me Philadelphia under 89.5 wins. And my last under, Jason. It's going to pain you to hear it, but I'm going to go with the New York Yankees under 90.5 wins. And this is solely a money play. There is a ton of sharp money that is coming in on the Yankees under win total. It's been bet all the way down to 90.5. It was 93.5 at open. Listen, they got really big buildings out in Las Vegas, and they've got them for a reason. I'm going to follow the money here, and I'm going to go Yankees under 90.5 for their win total. The only over I like, and it's just to be kind of annoying, give me the Los Angeles Dodgers over 103.5 wins. They didn't come close to their win total last year despite winning as many games as they did. I think they may be out for a regular season vengeance this year. Oh, and by the way, the team's better than it was last year.
All right, I only have a few that I want to get to because I agree with a lot of yours. First of all, on the Yankees, I think you're nuts. And here's why. You can talk about money play all you want. I'm just going to give you statistics. Listen, since 2017, do you know how many times the Yankees have had less than 90.5 wins? Once. And I think it was the year Aaron Judge missed a ton of time. They were 82-80 that year. Since 2017, they've won 91, 100, 103, 92, 99, 94, 94 games. They're going to win that in their sleep. take the Yankees over 90.5. That's a no-brainer to me. You know the other one I'm going with? You know, all this hatred. You think the Cardinals could be the worst team in baseball. Well, apparently the books think the Rockies are that team. Because the Rockies are, I think, at 55.5. Take the over. I mean, come on. They've got to win more than 55 games. They got to win more than 55 games. So that's the one I like.
A fun statistic for you in the last 15 seconds. It's the 11th time that we'll have a team with an under 60-game win total. 6-4 to the over since 1990.
Yeah, take over 55.5 on that. Kurt Helin joins us next. Welcome back to the show. If it's a Wednesday on Sports Wrap, it can only mean one thing. It's time for the NBA Weekly. Kurt Helin, pro basketball talk at NBCSports.com. Did I catch you in the middle of something? You okay there?
I realized my microphone was facing the wrong way, so I figured I should at least...
Oh, you actually use a microphone? Sometimes I can't even tell.
Yeah, it's the way the setup is here. It's just kind of off camera, but yes, there is a microphone.
Oh, okay.
It's supposed to make me sound, like James Earl Jones, so I think it works great.
Kurt Helin hanging out with us. I said you must be tired of me because now I'm texting you like at all hours of the day and night. I know. I apologize. I
had that game on. I was watching the Nuggets last night at the end too.
I literally just randomly texted him and was like, "Wow, that was a great play call." And I thought he was going to respond with, "What are you talking about?" For those that don't know, we were talking about this. So last night, the end of the Nuggets Suns game. Great finish to that game, by the way. Jokic almost went 20-20-20 again. It's just ridiculous. And we're not even talking about him for MVP anymore. Like, we've just apparently gotten so tired of talking about Nikola Jokic as an MVP. Anybody but him. So, I mean, great finish to that game. And, you've got the Nuggets in that kind of goulash with the Lakers and the Rockets and the Timberwolves, all sort of in the middle of that Western Conference. We keep talking about, wow, the rise of the Lakers. But if you put the proverbial gun to my head and said, what team is more likely to make a run, the Lakers at 3 or the Nuggets wherever they land, I'll take the Nuggets.
You are not alone there. I think it's an interesting discussion for the Lakers, and that whole grouping between 3 and 6, where they're 2.5 games apart, like all of them, and we kind of got the same thing in the East. But in the West, 3 through 6, 2 of those teams are going to go home after the first round and be very disappointed in the playoff outcome and their season because of it. And it's really going to come down to matchups. Everybody would like to face the Rockets right now, because that looks like the weakest playoff opponent. They are not handling pressure well. They've not been good in the clutch. The Lakers are a little scary because if you get into a close game with them, they've got Luka and AR and LeBron. But could the Lakers beat Denver in a series? I'm not sure. Could the Lakers beat Minnesota in a series? Again, not totally sure that they can. That's a really tough series. They knocked them out last year. It's a tough matchup for them if Minnesota's healthy. It's really going to come down to matchups a lot, and it's going to be fascinating in that grouping.
Yeah, it is. Sam, go ahead.
Kurt, we were talking a little bit about the potential for expansion and the vote that will come of that. I'm curious, something that I don't think we've discussed at all with the potential of expansion and however that may go. Will it affect the schedule? Because it seems like we've got these coaches, whether it be Steve Kerr, JJ Redick, all talking about too many games, this, that, the third. Do you think that having more teams will adversely or proversely affect the schedule in terms of how many games we have?
First off, just so we know, the owners did vote today to explore expansion and start looking at bids in Seattle and Las Vegas, which is akin to... Look, they're at the point they're going to get bids now, and they're going to look at those bids. And if you think they're going to look at $15 million or so that they get without putting it, they don't share that money with the players, right? They each get, if it's $15 million, if it's 7.5 per, that's a $500 million check per team. And if you think the owners are going to be like, nah, we're good, I just don't think that's how it's going to go. They're good. They're going to approve this. The question right now, that schedule question, I just don't see them cutting back because of it's the money, right? Like, everybody would have to take a little bit of a pay cut. Nobody's willing to kind of do that to make those numbers work. Even if you're going to argue scarcity a little bit, like the NFL, what makes football so great is that these games matter because there's only so many of them. I mean, you're talking about cut 10 games out of the schedule, and you still got 72. Like,
yeah,
it's still
10, there's not enough. They can't cut enough to get to scarcity.
Right, they can't. So I don't think it really works for them. What will be fascinating out of that is the fight for the team that gets to go east, because Seattle and Vegas have to go in the west for obvious reasons, just of geographic location. So Minnesota, Memphis, New Orleans is the farthest team east, but they don't seem like they're going to get it. It seems like Memphis and Minnesota are going to fight for the right to go east, and I'll tell you that there's a lot of people leaning towards Minnesota. The Timberwolves would love that. It's a slightly softer conference, but also they're closer to Detroit and Milwaukee, and it makes there's a certain, you can match that up a little easier. So that's going to be the big fight, is which team gets to go east.
Who are you voting for MVP as of right now? It's got to be SGA, right?
Yeah. Look, Shea's a clear number one to me, and then you kind of get into the mix of Wemby, Jokic. Doncic has played great of late, and how do you want to sort them through? I'll probably have Doncic fourth, but and Wemby, SGA. Again, I've got to do a deep dive in the final weeks of the season and decide exactly how.
Could any of them take it away from SGA in the final 10 games?
I don't think so, barring as long as he meets the threshold. He is one of those guys where he's got to make sure he plays enough games. But as long as he gets there, I don't see how you take that away from him at this point. Putting up 30-something points a game, one of the best players in the league, does play really good defense. I know that was Wemby's argument. Doesn't work as well with Shea as, say, Doncic. And the other part of that is they're on pace to win 65 games for the second straight year. The only other teams to win 65-plus games 2 straight years, Jordan-era Bulls, Durant, Curry era Warriors. That's a really good team he's leading.
I sense a 65-game threshold question from Sam coming. Hold on.
100%. That's exactly what's coming, so Jason. You saw the statement that we got, Kurt, yesterday from the NBPA. What did you make of this? What do you think is coming with the 65-game limit or min?
It's going to get revisited this summer, and hopefully they just abolish it, because incremental changes I don't think solve it. But Cade Cunningham is now the poster boy for what's wrong with this, and it's a perfect case. He was on his way to first team All-NBA and being in that top 5 in, however you're going to shake it out, top 5 in MVP voting. And he suffers the collapsed lung on kind of a fluke play. And the buzz out, look, he could theoretically come back and still play 5 games, but the buzz out of Detroit is really we just want to get him back for the playoffs. They don't really expect to see him the rest of the regular season. And if that's the case and he falls short of that number, he'll finish at 60 qualifying games. You and I have talked about this here before. What I'd really like to do as a voter was, I'm going to ding him for that. I'm going to ding him for the missed time, but he falls to second team All-NBA or third team, or however you want to shake that out, but he gets rewarded for it still.
Yeah. Kurt Helin's hanging out with us. One more segment to talk about. We'll get to some more from the East as well as we continue on Sports Wrap. All right, before I get to a couple of Eastern Conference items, I do have one more thing in the West that I want to get to with Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. Hangs out with Sam and myself. That Moses Moody injury was tough to watch. And boy, they have just been decimated by injuries out there in the Bay Area this year. Is there any word as to what exactly the severity of that Moody injury is?
Oh yeah, it is a torn patellar tendon.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
The kneecap is the tendon, and that it's a really common football injury. A lot of linemen get that one. In the NBA, it's a little less common, but the guys who've had it, it's been 9 months to a year. He's going to miss a chunk of next season, and if not most of it. So it really is kind of a blow, because he's not only a really good rotation player in the NBA and fits great with what they want to do in Golden State, but also just one of the really good active guys. He's really active in Little Rock, where he's from, and all this stuff. He's one of the really good charitable guys in the league, and it's just hard to see. And that's not, by the way, two Warriors, if you count Jimmy Butler and his ACL, who are not only out for the rest of this season, but are going to miss a big chunk of next season before they're back in the
Does
fold.
it make them revisit this idea of a teardown?
No, not as long as Steph Curry is still in the building. Like, as long as Steph Curry wants to be a Warrior, he's a Warrior, and they'll just live with it.
It blows my mind. Give me thoughts on the East here. We're watching the Pistons play without Cade. The Celtics sort of holding that 2 spot. We've talked about seeding and what it could mean. Give me your impressions here on where we are in the East.
Yeah, Pistons are 3-0 without Cade, including beating a hot Laker team and ending their win streak. Defense will do that. Jenkins has stepped up big time for them, and just like a lot of people come out of nowhere, but he's one of those 4-year guys who could step in and help a little bit. He bounced around, played at Iona, I believe, played at St. John's at the end, I think, if I'm remembering that right. But really stepped in and has played great for them. And now, look, I think they're the number one. Your Knicks and the Celtics are like, it's going to be 2-3 in whatever order, and it's going to come down to the final days. That's a really tight race. Probably Cleveland at 4. The fun part of the East is 5 through 10, because it is 10. Like, there's a hard line there. The Bucks aren't climbing in. But again, like the West, 2.5 games separate 5 through 10. And like avoiding the play-in versus having to get somebody brutal in the first round if you even get out of the play-in, it's really tight. And Philadelphia's in there, Toronto, some really interesting teams. Atlanta and Charlotte are probably the hottest teams in that group, but it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out by the end of the season.
Who's the best chance to create an upset, Atlanta or Charlotte? First round upset.
That's a really good. As deep as Atlanta is, I kind of like Charlotte just because I think their high end talent, like LaMelo Ball's good, and what he's really done this year, what really stepped his game up, is he's gone from 10 or 12, like, what kind of decision was that? Plays a game where he's just trying to make too big a play or trying to do something. He's cut that down to a handful a game. There's a couple times a game where you still are like, dude, no. But he's taking better care of the ball. And they've got, look, Con Knippel is really good. He can run the play. Brandon Miller, they've got real talent around them. I don't know that they beat one of those top teams. But, man, if I'm Detroit or Boston or New York, I don't want to see Charlotte in the first round because now I got to work. Now I really got to put it in on them as opposed to getting, banged up Philadelphia or something.
How about Orlando? They feel like they've been in the same spot for 3 years, Kurt.
Yeah, because Paolo Banchero's awful. Sorry.
Wow, tell us what you really think, Sam.
Sam agrees with a lot of people in Orlando, not necessarily with the team, but like there's some frustration there with whether he's a really good player. He's an all-star level player, but is he your number one? Can he play next to Franz? Remains Wagner, who's out, but will be back soon. Remains a legitimate question. Are you better off moving Paolo? And is it a question of not just talent, but fit? And do they need to make changes there? I will say this, there will be changes in the offseason. And if I were Jamal Mosley, I might be contacting realtors. He is one of him, Doc Rivers. There's a couple guys who there's almost no chance they're back next year, no matter what happens.
Speaking of guys finding realtors and offseason moves, Kurt, there are 2 players I wanted to ask you about. Let's start with Giannis, because this is a guy we've been talking about getting traded for darn near 18 months at this point. It feels like this is just getting uglier and uglier by the day with the grievances and the Bucks being mad. Where are you at with the whole Giannis Bucks situation?
God, there's so much unnecessary drama. Again, I didn't look right before I came on, but they were, I think, 7 or 8 games out of the play-in with 10 to play. Like, they're not mathematically eliminated, but they're eliminated. Look, Giannis, in this case, it's just performative. Everybody knows you're competitive, dude. We all get it. It just feels like it's just performative for you at this point. You have to do it for your own ego when the best thing for this team would be to, look, there's teams that they are in the mix with odds-wise, like the Pelicans, who are, lost last night to the Knicks, but are trying to win. Like like you might be able to jump up a couple spots and help your lottery odds. And I think that, I know everybody hates the tanking thing, but when you get 10 games left in the season and you're out, like, So I get where they're at, but that's going to become a thing. This point of tension will build over into the offseason. And again, most teams are expecting the Bucks are going to try to pull something out of their hat, and it kind of depends on where that draft pick lands and what they can do with it. But most teams are expecting the trades to open up again, that he's just going to tell them it's time to part ways.
That's Kurt Helin. This is the NBA Weekly. He joins us every Wednesday to talk about the league. We'll carry the conversation into the podcast and YouTube portion of the conversation. You can watch more of it there. Otherwise, we'll see you back here next Wednesday, Kurt.
I will be here.
Welcome back to the show. Odds and Ends wraps it up in 10 minutes with more news from the NFL that doesn't have to do with Puka Nacua. And Tiger Woods made his return to competitive golf last night. Sam Yarnell was watching, I'm sure. Maybe? No, not at all. It wasn't on for very long because his team got destroyed. So big news out of college basketball, Sam. We were actually
we're not going to talk about the Hannah Montana 20th anniversary special that was on last night. See, that's my reaction when you talk about TGL and Tiger Woods playing golf.
We'll get to that in Odds and Ends. Hubert Davis and UNC parting ways, apparently winning 75% of your games or whatever it is while you're the head coach at UNC these days isn't enough. I always think part of this, though, and we'll get into, who might replace him and who could replace him. Some of this stuff is, to me, boils down to expectations. We talked about this at Kentucky with John Calipari. They ran John Calipari out of town. A Hall of Fame coach ran the guy out of town simply because the expectations of the fan base don't meet reality. And it feels like in some regards, North Carolina still holds itself as North Carolina of the Dean Smith, Roy Williams day. And you know what the fact of the matter is? With NIL, all these different things, the competitive nature and landscape of college basketball, some of these schools got to start, stop smoking their own stash here and start to realize that we just may not be what we think we are, or the competitive nature of this makes it such that we have to be more realistic in our expectations, because it feels like Hubert Davis is the victim of just over expecting or overly high expectations on what they should be year in and year out.
That's interesting. I looked at this firing through a bit of a different lens. I know a lot of people are talking about the basketball of it all. And yeah, I guess that matters. True. But something Jason and I have talked about on this show before, not for a few months, but certainly before, is how inept Bubba Cunningham is. And this, to me, is just another example of a bad Bubba Cunningham fire, or a bad Bubba Cunningham hire that turned into a bad Bubba Cunningham fire. Again, the athletics director at the University of North Carolina has been bad at his job for more than 365 days now. You saw the entire thing that fell apart with the football program the second they hired Bill Belichick, and that was coming off of a historically good team that was put together by that UNC football program, one that featured the likes of Omarion Hampton, one that was only a couple of years removed from producing a quarterback that's already been to a Super Bowl. The UNC football program was actually in a good spot, and then Bubba Cunningham ruined it all by hiring Bill Belichick. I think the same could actually be said about the North Carolina basketball program. While I'm not as much of a college basketball historian as I know the past in college football, I can remember when North Carolina was a perennial powerhouse. And I remember there were years where it was just a few years ago, they were fighting with Duke, either with a chance to go to the Final Four on the line or in the Final Four. That was not that long ago, and it has been a fall from grace. And it all seems to draw back to one thing at the University of North Carolina, Jason, and that is Bubba Cunningham. So that's what fair. I'm acquainting all of this to.
I like that. I like that. But here's the thing. You know, you mentioned you used a term in that diatribe of yours. That's the best word I can come up with, for lack of a better word. It's SAT Wednesday on the show. So I'll go with perennial powerhouse, that term you used. The problem is there's a lot of perennial powerhouses in college basketball. And you know what? Some years they can't all wind up, getting out of the first weekend of the NCAA. There's going to be upsets. Remember, this is a team that lost one of their best scorers. I just think there is a knee-jerk, this overreaction because of all the money being pumped into these sports. The expectation, got to have it now, got to have it fast. We have to be in the Final Four every year. We got to be in the college football playoff every year, or at least in the conversation every year. That a lot of these schools are making decisions. Man, all right, you can tell me, and I use this all the time, you can tell me Hubert Davis is gone. Who are you replacing him with? Because unless you have some firebrand, surefire, great coach that you can guarantee is going to come in there and be better, you don't know that the alternative winds up being better than what you just had for the last several years with Hubert Davis.
Yeah, but the counter to that in this new era of college sports that we're talking about is, and you mentioned this in the last segment with Kurt, right? When you talked about Billy Donovan, you can just go out and buy the best guy. Like, that's the other beauty of all of this. You can now, in college sports, there are more professional coaches that want to take college jobs, professional assistants. Yeah. There was just an NBA assistant coach hired to be a Division I head college basketball coach. This is the trend that we are seeing. So it just gives North Carolina that much more liberty to go screw it up and hire the Bill Belichick equivalent.
Yeah, and we did talk about that with Kurt Helin. If you watch the podcast version of the show or the NBA Weekly, we actually got into this because the idea of Brad Stevens, who apparently has already said no to the idea of going and coaching North Carolina. You had to ask, though. I'll give him credit. They had to ask. And the other one is Billy Donovan, who's likely going to be departing Chicago. Maybe Billy Donovan winds up, being somebody they go after. All right, odds and ends are right around the corner. We'll wrap up the show next. Welcome back. Just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Wednesday. Tomorrow on the show, Dennis Bernstein slated to join us. Does a great job on the NHL. Ryan Kenny, MLB Network, with the official start of baseball on Wednesday night. The rest of the team's getting into it on Thursday. We'll talk to Brian about all things bats and balls. All right, before we go, a couple of reminders. If you haven't done so yet, subscribe to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast, available on all your favorite podcasting platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon. Anywhere you get a podcast, you can listen to this show Monday through Friday with limited commercials. The audio version, it's fantastic. Our companion podcasts are also there as well. The NBA Weekly, the Sports Wrap Spotlight. You can get them all by subscribing to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast. We also have Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. This is the place for all things Sports Wrap with Jason Page. The TV version of the show available there Monday through Friday, 45 minutes commercial free every afternoon. A lot of times available there before you can catch it anywhere on television. Go and check that out. Our companion podcast is also available on the YouTube channel. You can watch us talk with Kurt Helin for 30 minutes about the NBA. You can watch us talk in an extended form with Dennis Bernstein or Bill Bender or David Ardsma, any number of contributors that join us here on the show in the Sports Wrap Spotlight. We also have Sports Wrap Shorts. These are fantastic. 1 to 3 minute long videos. News breaks. We jump in on our YouTube channel with Sports Wrap Shorts. Go and check those out as well. Sports Wrap Shorts also available on our TikTok, Sports Wrap Jason page, and on our Instagram. You guessed it, Sports Wrap Jason page. And now, without any further delay, on this Wednesday, it's time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, and apparently not the end yet for Joe Flacco. Sam Yarnell signs a one-year deal with the Bengals, $6 million for him, $9 million in incentives. I posted this in a Sports Wrap short last night, shortly after this news broke, and I asked the question: if I set the line at 2.5, the number of games that Joe Flacco will start for the Bengals in 2026, I set the number at 2.5. You taking the over, or you taking the under?
I'd probably take the under.
No, just because, come on.
I mean, the over, don't get me wrong, the over's a fun bet. I don't know. This is a head scratcher. The only justification that you can really make is that, like, Jake Browning is gone. I think Jake Browning signed as a third stringer backup somewhere else. So, like, it made sense, but I don't know, man. Joe Flacco as your backup option? Tough.
Joe Flacco can still play, though. And with those receivers, look, if you protect him just enough, Joe Flacco... Let me throw something in. You ready for this, Sam? Joe Flacco has had more memorable games and moments in the last 2 years than Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, let me counter. Joe Flacco has had less memorable games and moments in the last 2 years than Jameis Winston.
No, Jameis Winston's memorable because he throws 17 pick sixes. Come on.
Jameis Winston caught the most electric touchdown pass any quarterback caught last season.
You can't compare Joe Flacco and Jameis Winston over the last 2 years.
You're right, you can't, because Jameis Winston is way more electric than Joe Flacco. I agree.
Oh, come on. I like it. I think it's the right move because of the fact that you got a guy in Burrow who's injury prone. To say the least. That's
now I'm going to sound like your neighbor. You like it because it keeps someone your age in the NFL.
What is it with all the ageism towards me these days? I don't understand. All this ageism. Tiger Woods made his return to competitive golf last night, Sam Yarnell, at TGL. His team got blitzed, but we got to see him hit like 7 golf shots. What did you make of it? I watched it. You know, I saw some things I liked. He seemed happy. He looks like he's having a good time with the boys out there. Max Homa and Tom Kim and, you know, Kevin Kisner. Was Kevin Kisner even there? I don't know. But anyway, they lose. Tiger hit golf shots. Everybody's theorizing that it puts him in line to play the Masters in April. I don't think he's going to play, and I'll tell you why I don't think he's going to play. I'm going to surprise you.
Can't wait.
He has one of the most famous records in all of sports right now, and that is this: 24 straight cuts made at the Masters. I don't think he's putting that at risk.
Yeah,
I don't think he's putting that at risk unless he is 100% sure he can go out there and beat Tiger Woods, at least to the degree that he's going to make the cut, because that means that sort of stuff means something. Just a thought.
Yeah, does it? So he's never. This is. I mean this in no way as a slight to Tiger Woods. He never, like, it counts if you withdraw, right? Or if you have a medical something, it counts as missing the cut. So that's actually incredibly impressive that he's played in that many Masters and not even had to withdraw in 24 straight Masters tournaments. I know it's not 24 straight years, but nevertheless, that is incredibly impressive, and I do think that is somewhat justification to not do it. Listen, it was fun to see him. I'll tell you, he looks incredibly hyped up in all the action shots that TGL posts on social media, which is great to see. But again, please don't take somebody's spot at the greatest golf course in the world.
We'll see. We still got 16 days or whatever until the Masters, so we'll see if he winds up showing up. That's going to do it for us on this Wednesday edition of the show. As I said, tomorrow, great show. Dennis Bernstein will be here, Brian Kenny as well. Thank you to Kurt Helin, as always, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. Thanks to you, Sam Yarnell. Thanks to all of you at home for watching. I'm Jason Page. We'll catch you back here on Thursday for another edition of Sports Wrap. Bye-bye. Hi there. I'm Jason Page. You like what you're watching? Subscribe. We've got Sports Wrap Shorts on this channel. We've got the show. We've got clips from the show. What else do you have to do? You probably follow a lot of other things that aren't half of as they're not half as exciting as this show is. So what are you waiting for? Click the subscribe button, follow the channel, watch the content. Bye.